So hopefully that'll help
Well,
too.
and I went and like slipped some sleeping stuff in your neighbors, so hopefully they get an extra hour and they won't be leaking your internet from you.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll keep the fingers crossed there. Also, the roof is done working, but guys, we're working now. We're getting into it. Good morning. Good morning. It is August the 17th, 7:30 o'clock, God's time, as we like to say, mountain time. Beautiful out there. Hopefully, you guys in Colorado are enjoying a little bit of reprieve from the smoke because it's all pretty much coming up here to the Pacific Northwest right now. We've been sunk in, but is what it is. But yeah,
Pull up a Weather Channel map and type in 30022, and there's no smoke where I am because the animals outside of my door are lining up in twos. So it's Fred's coming through. I'm right in the path of Fred, and we're getting about 4 inches of rain in the next 24 hours. So it's wet here, really wet.
Send some our way. We need it. We need it. But good morning, guys. Welcome in. This is, of course, Broncos for Breakfast coming at you live every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 7:30 Mountain Time a.m. Been enjoying the show. Been doing it since probably March at some point now, and now we're
Early
really
April,
rolling strong.
somewhere in there, yeah.
Early April. So thank you, everybody, for joining us so far on this journey. It's been a lot of fun, and let's keep this ball rolling. Like I said, Broncos for Breakfast. You guys can follow Scott and myself on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. And while you guys are over there, also please follow us at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. Obviously, a lot of good content there. You can stay up to date. And if you have anything that we didn't get to your comment on the super chat, or you're listening to this after the fact on the podcast side of things, add us on Twitter. We're both. I can't speak for Scott, but I'm a no life nothing. So I love Twitter. Twitter's got me also hook, line, and sinker. So if you ask me a question on Twitter, you're gonna get a response. And also an excuse to stop working on something else and talk some football. God bless it. Thank you for that, Twitter. Also, if you guys are joining us today on Facebook, click those thumbs up. That helps us a heck of a lot. We got a heart coming in from Gary Leeds Palmer, the one and the only Jerry Holen and Dave Glassman, and also a like coming in from Andrew Lampy. Thank you guys very much. But also, if you haven't clicked the thumbs up, the heart react, the care react, the wow react, any of that yet, please do so. And while you're there, also go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Become a supporter on top of facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. We got another heart coming in, or another like. Charles Tudor, how you doing, Charles? Thank you very much for that like over on Facebook. Guys, be like Charles, answer the call of action. Help us a heck of a lot. If you guys are joining us on YouTube today, please subscribe, like, and share. That's probably the second most helpful thing you can do to support this show. Help Scott, help myself, help Chad, help Mile High Huddle. If you guys go to YouTube, subscribe, click for the notifications, like the video on YouTube, etc. While you guys are over on YouTube, also go to Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. I'm going to drop his chat right now, or the link as well in the chat. If you guys click this right now, it's going to get you to Scott's channel. Scott's got, we were talking about a little bit earlier, he can do some things on his channel that potentially others can't, given where we are right now, which is great. So if you guys want to check out maybe some Drew Lock content or something else going on Scott's channel, make sure you go follow that link and subscribe to Scott's channel. Scott's, let me get you right when you're getting a sip of coffee.
That's okay. I heard my name and started cutting it short. So. We actually started doing some Premier League stuff. 8 o'clock. It's Premier League for breakfast. My best friend's a big Arsenal fan. I'm a big Chelsea fan, and we both know a lot. We both pour a lot of time into watching international football. So I was like, hey, let's start. Let's just do it for fun. So we're doing that at Mondays at 8. And then I'm getting back into interviewing other publishers, other reporters from around the country. So with the Falcons and Titans. We talked to my friend David Beauclair, who runs the Titan site over at Fan Nation on Sports Illustrated. And he gave us some insight on who was healthy, who wasn't. And I'm going to try and get Miami Dolphins this week, too. I know I don't know if they're on Denver. I think they're on Denver's schedule. I haven't looked at it.
Miami plays.
Plays Broncos the Dolphins this year?
Oh, man.
Not that big a deal. Anyway, those are the type of things we're doing. And, and add in some highlights of recruits and doing some sound bites of players and that type of stuff. So kicking it back up a notch again.
Yeah, awesome. I don't see the Dolphins on the Broncos schedule, so we'll find out, I guess, but does not appear to be the case. But yeah, guys, let's say hello to the chat. We got a lot of people coming in right away. Thank you so much. Mo Ron's in the house. Good morning, Nick and Scott. Good to see you, Mo Ron. We got John's in the house as well. D. Herrera. See, I remembered it that time. Good morning. Good way to start the morning. Absolutely, John. Thank you for the positivity as well. We got Max Power talking about a good way to start the morning. $2 pound coming in here saying, morning, guys. Which 5 do you think get cut today? And Moron had a good list here. I'm just going to piggyback off Mo since he has a list. I don't have to be clicking back and forth and taking my eyes off the chat. But he mentions Duke Dawson, Nate Harrison, Savion Smith, Barrington Wade, Brandon Mack, DeMontery Pearsonell, Devontae Dukes, Nolan Logenberger, Austin Schlottman, Quinn Bailey, Drew Himmelman, and Austin Fort. Not all these guys. I don't think they will do that. But I could see Barrington Wade.
Got to be another 5 by next Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, so there's they got to get down to 80 by next Tuesday. If you can get ahead of the game, you might. So it's that's a good list. Yeah,
maybe I have a hard time saying for sure Austin Schlottman, given his center ability. Don't want to move on from him just yet. Duke Dawson, I think, and Savon Smith have both flashed. Austin Fort and Drew Himmelman also ones that I'm not looking to get rid of just yet, but we'll see. You know, we're talking bottom of the barrel guys here, but you know, and it's also a lot of stuff that will be dependent on reps that we have not seen, right? There's only so many reps that can be done in the game. A lot of it's probably going to be on who's in practice, who's getting it done in the classroom. Also, guys who are like, okay, this guy, you know, we kept him around for a bit, but it's just not clicking. We're going to move on, but that's a good list. We got Lord Deer coming in with some Canadian dollars up north of the border, I believe. $6.99. Thank you very much, Lord Deer. Appreciate you and supporting the channel. If you guys want to be awesome like Lord Deer, you know, don't hesitate. We'll get to your questions if we are doing that. But Scott, we got Moron still talking here. Oh, Dave Glassman's in the house. Good to see you. Cheers to you, Dave. Jeremy's in the house. Good to see you. Andrew Lampy, always a superstar supporter. He's saying, morning, fellas. Might be stars there. Not 100% sure, but it's all great. Clee, I'm not going to say it this time because somebody made fun of me on Twitter last time because your name is a little bit naughty there, Clee. But the West Coast is burning and Afghanistan's complete success. USA, yeah. Clee, somebody was laughing very hard at me. I'm not going to let you make me a fool, but I appreciate the looks like a red snapper picture there. Jerry Holland saying, don't get to see enough of you, Nick. Well,
that's the dirtiest thing I've heard all day.
Thank you very much, Jerry. That's appreciate you. I've been out and about recently, but you know, taking advantage of some vacation days. Andrew saying, working out. Can I get some random clapping and support? You got it, Andrew. Burn those legs. You know, one more rep, push it out. There you going. Peter saying those are huge stars from Andrew. I'm sure Andrew's always such a star giver, so we appreciate you're a star, Andrew. We love you for that. Mr. Sir McLovin's in the house. Good morning, fellas. Got a new job, so I haven't been able to get on the morning. Well, you know, congrats. Yeah, congrats to you being a contributing member of society. God bless you. Victor Rios coming in. Good morning, guys. Good to see you. Joey's in here saying the best thing Broncos did was draft Williams. He's going to be a monster and really open up the play action passing. Let's get into this. Let's get into Joey real quick. Talking about the game. I'm going to keep the chat right here so I don't miss any of you guys coming in here. But Broncos rookies, specifically the first 2 rounds, not just this last year, but the year before, making plays out there looking good. You know, in theory, this is what you want from your first 2 draft picks, right? Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Patrick Surtain, Javonte Williams. Doesn't always work out that way, but the Broncos look like they actually have a pretty good foundation here with those 4 rookies, and those guys not only look like contributors, but they could be like big time players for the Broncos.
And this is going to be a Captain Obvious statement, but sometimes the obvious needs to be stated. I've noticed through the limited amount of football we've been able to watch that the second year leap has been bigger than usual because these guys have had camps. Mm-hmm. You know, the rookie class last year had it tough, and you're always going to have a player take a step forward. I mean, yes, there's a sophomore slump. That's a name for a reason. But for the most part, the guys are now seasoned pros. They've got 16 games under their belts, a full training camp. But this is their first full training camp. So the second-year guys that I've seen have really made a bigger leap than usual so far. And then the young guys coming in are talented. You know, the rookies coming in are talented. We knew all about Patrick Surtain. You know, we've talked about him a lot. And, you know, while some people may have wanted a quarterback, if you weren't going to take a quarterback, this was a fantastic pick. Yep. And if he ends up being, you know, as good as we think he can be, you're not going to worry too much about missing on the quarterback, no matter what that quarterback ends up doing. You know, the defense yesterday, see, I watched it yesterday. The defense One. They have? They had 8 points by themselves, a safety and a touchdown. So tack on an extra point, it was 9-6. They won the game. So, but yeah, Surtain had a big game. Do we expect the pick six every week? No. But do we expect a heck of a player? Yeah, we do. He's good.
Yeah, he was really impressive. I think the number one defensive back in football, according to Pro Football Focus last week. Now, take that with 20,000 grains of salt, enough to fill a beach, because it's preseason. Not all the starters are out there. It was Kellen Mond throwing it out there, not Kirk Cousins. It was a smaller sample size. They're playing vanilla defense out there, but still, he looked not only like did he belong, he looked like a guy, like when you're watching college football, especially true when you're watching high school football, there's like your eyes gravitate to the obvious talent.
There's
guys who are built
Jim
different.
Donnan used to coach the University of Georgia, and he was talking about the guys. I want my wife. No offense to the women out there, but his wife might not be into football that much, because when we go to recruit a guy, I want my wife to be able to pick him out.
Yeah.
And I actually tested that my first year doing that. I joked about it because you could tell it was my first year, because my wife actually went to a spring game with me. And there were 9 guys between the sophomore and senior classes that ended up signing D1, but only one of them went to a Power 5 conference, a Power 5 school. And at halftime, I was down on the field, and I came up and I saw her at halftime. I said, "So who are we here to see?" And she goes, "Well, that number 1 looks pretty good." It was Paul Oliver, the may he rest in peace. But I'm like, those are the kind of guys that you want to have out there. And if you're not getting them, if you can't tell, if an idiot like me can't tell they're really good, then you're going to get beat by the guys that are getting guys that idiots like me can tell are really good. So he was a standout. He was a standout at all levels, and I think the Broncos are lucky to have him.
And he's still so young too. Turned 21 in April, and he's so long. He's just so big, right? Even for a cornerback, and you don't really appreciate that, even because Alabama. Okay, he's playing college football. He's big. He's big for NFL standards, and now he's playing like some kind of linebacker box role as well. I'm so excited to see what they're going to do with him this year. He is such a unique player.
Some comparisons of guys that are long, but Surtain's not just, he's not just tall. He's big.
Yeah.
He's physical, and when you can cover like that, it gives you so many options. He's such a weapon. The versatility that you can use him all across the back 5. You can drop him up. You can walk him up as an outside linebacker in coverage and rush a passer. It's just, it's a wild card out there. And, you love those guys. Defensive coordinators love those guys, and offensive coordinators hate them. It's like, where the hell is this guy going to be coming from? And oh, by the way, we'll just man him up on a receiver if we need to, and take away that out route. And we better not throw it that way, or it's going to go the other direction.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree with you. We'll get into some more Surtain here. I want us to keep talking to the chat here. Everybody's coming on in. EJ saying, "Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country." We love you, EJ. Thanks for joining us today. Gary Leeds Palmer. Gary's an OG. Love you, Gary. Broncos for breakfast. Best pod ever. Gary, I'm blushing. That's too nice. We appreciate you so much. Jillian coming in here. Knows a thing or two about football. Love you, Jillian. Thank you for joining us. Jillian Richard Reese. Do you think there will be a trade between us and the Colts where we get Deshaun Watson? I'm not sure. I think all the Deshaun Watson stuff for the Broncos is on ice currently, waiting to see what happens there. But I really am skeptical that you'd see a 3-team trade with the Colts and the Texans, given they are divisional rivals. That'd be like, let's say Mahomes is disgruntled and wants out, and we work a deal with the Chiefs and the Washington football team. It's like, we're not going to help the Chiefs out to do any, although I guess we'd be very excited to help them get rid of Patrick Mahomes. So maybe I'm talking myself out of it here.
I think the rule of thumb is send them out of the division and send them someplace cold.
Yeah. Yeah, gosh. Dave still coming in here with the hearts and the lock reaction there. Got to talk some lock at some point. Nice stars, Gary. Agreed, Peter. Gary's a real one. We got Steven in the house. Good morning, guys. Drew Lock is my quarterback. Tim Tebow was just released. Timmy didn't have a good enough block out there. That's okay. We got Mark Lindemode in here.
People losing their minds over, Tim Tebow getting this opportunity. Who cares? Really, who cares? Good for him. Go out there and give it a shot. It's not like he's costing somebody else an opportunity. There's 100 guys at camp. 53 are going to make it.
Yeah.
There's I don't know. I'm not too. I don't get too upset about what Tim Tebow does or doesn't do. Frankly, I don't care.
Yeah, he's low on my list of priorities.
Yeah, I don't care.
But thanks, Mark, very much. We got Peter saying good evening from Cambodia. Good to see you, Peter. Joseph T. Fisher, good morning, and go Broncos. And it's no Dolphins this year. Yeah, I just looked at the schedule. No Dolphins. That's okay. We played them last year and made Tua look like a pile of poo. The Jedi's Hut, I mean, he looked terrible. The Jedi's Hut coming in here, PS2 gives me Talib vibes. He looks bigger than Talib to me. But that's definitely a solid comparison.
I think he's thicker. Talib was tall. Talib was, 6'2", 6'3", but long. Richard Sherman's long and thin. Surtain's thicker. He's I think he's more physical.
Yeah. Malachi Martin saying he gave me Champ vibes, super smooth. I don't know if he's Champ Bailey. Champ Bailey is like, you're talking about a first ballot Hall of Famer there. And I know that's where people's minds tend to go for the Broncos with any high drafted cornerback, but I am very skeptical of putting anybody's comparison to a first ballot Hall of Famer. I try to use more contemporaries. Somebody for Surtain who, gosh, with the box rolls that you're seeing, with the size he has and this defense, it's his number one comparison, athletic profile wise, from if you go to mock draftable is Derwin James. And I know Derwin James played safety, but you're telling me Patrick Surtain with that body type, with the tackling, with the instincts, couldn't play safety. You're talking about playing him in a box role. You're talking about using him off the edge in blitz packages. I really think he actually could play that super hybrid role for the Broncos, and maybe that even becomes a position for this Vic Fangio defense going forward, especially in the AFC West. Right? You're going up against Travis Kelce. You're going up against Darren Waller. Typically, you have way more value from that pure boundary cornerback, but maybe that isn't the case with Surtain. Maybe that isn't the case in the AFC West because he is such a unique matchup player, and everybody's screaming for that linebacker forever to stop the tight ends. You have now a 6'2", 6'1", whatever, 6'3", 200
enough. Tall enough. 40-inch vertical leap. He's tall
long,
enough.
Physical. And now let's say the Chiefs are using Travis Kelce in line, and you bring Patrick Surtain in the box. You're baiting the Chiefs to run. You're saying, please run the ball. Give it to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If you get 4 yards, so be it. You're not running the ball. You're not killing me with Travis Kelce. And that's about as good strategically as it can get, I think. Vic Fangio always ahead of the game there. But let's keep going. Greg Smith, good morning, fellas. Good to you.
Aloha.
Great. Aloha. Yeah, exactly. Andrew sent you guys loads of star Gary's too. Peter, where's your stars? No, Andrew and Gary, thank you guys so much. We love you. Jedi's Hut in here saying a good way to sum up last week's game is that the Broncos do have talent and potential, and it showed. It's just a matter of staying healthy with consistent and confident quarterback play from Drew. That's a big one. Also, we'll get in the game in a second. I want to keep saying hello. Dakota Whitehouse is in here. Good morning. How are you doing? Michael Ronquillo. Good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos for breakfast. Great to see you. Nick looks very tired. Nick woke up at 6 o'clock and then was out here at 6:30, but his coffee is starting to course through him, and I can't sleep because I'm so excited about this Broncos team, guys. That's what it is. Very fun game. US Dave's in the house. Good to see you. And Trevor Sandals in the house. Morning, fellas. So, yeah, I think we guys said hello to pretty much everybody that's in here that wanted to say hello. Gosh, I want to talk some more Patrick Surtain still. He was so impressive in this game. And I know, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson out here looking good, but we're going to focus on Patrick Surtain. Do you think is there any merit to Patrick Surtain becoming more of that hybrid player for a defense long-term? Or do you think if you were coaching or building a team, the end goal would be that boundary corner?
No, I think I like having him being able to freelance, assuming that you can get competency on the edge, and you don't necessarily have to have a star, but assuming you can get competence on that, now you got like another free safety out there or a shutdown guy on the in the interior. So we talked about it. I hate to say I told you so, but his versatility is what made him so intriguing as a player. When you've got a person who's good in coverage, he might not be the best corner in coverage, but he can do so many more things because of his physical ability that other corners just flat out couldn't do because they're getting pushed around. That's my guy. System be damned. That's the guy I wanted for a corner. I look back and, I think Clee was talking about Eric Berry. Eric Berry is one of the best pure football players I ever saw coming up. He was a quarterback, and the video he was referencing was Creekside against Westlake. Was Eric Berry at quarterback and Cam Newton at quarterback playing against one another.
Man,
that was fun.
Yeah,
but and then he goes to the Army All-American game and plays corner for the first time and was a standout. And then he goes and is an All-American safety at Tennessee and was a All-Pro safety with the Chiefs. So, and Surtain's a little bit like that, a lot like that. He's just a little bit taller. Might not be quite as explosive as Barry was,
Yeah.
but a little bit taller. And you can use him in so many ways. You can attack the backfield with him. You can drop him back into coverage. As long, again, the key on that, though, is do you have competent corners? They don't have to be your best players. But if he's inside and I can just pick apart the outside, then he's not doing me any good. Then I need to move him outside. But that's the ideal thing is you've got, again, I've used the phrase before, wild card. You've got a wild card in Surtain. Where can he best help the team? What can I do with him to best help the team? And that's a great proposition for a defensive coordinator that likes to experiment a little bit.
Yeah, and this maybe will send a shiver up some people's spine here, but there's a chance that the Broncos could go first-round cornerback again next year. I know that there's a lot of, oh my gosh, they did so much, but you're losing Bryce Callahan and Kyle Fuller to free agency next year. We know how much George Payton loves the cornerback position. And if you love Patrick Surtain so much in that kind of hybrid role where he's outside, he's inside, doing everything, it would make sense to keep investing in that cornerback position. It is very valuable. It's a position where depth matters. And I definitely was, scoffing at it at first, thinking about it. But I definitely think it's a viable thing, especially with how this roster is stacked up right now. There are not many
the
obvious
argument
needs.
against him when we first started doing this was a system fit. Is he the system fit? I need a guy that can turn, flip his hips and run. But as we've talked about, general managers aren't drafting for systems, so to speak, because they're drafting for 10 to 12 years where systems change every 2 years. How long are defensive coordinators in place? How long, especially if you're a team like I've been watching, you're changing head coaches every 3-4 years. Surtain may play under several different systems and different head coaches. How many offensive coordinators has Drew Lock had since his freshman year? 6. So you got to be careful drafting for a system, because as soon as the system changes, you don't want to then hamper your team. So was a big fan of Surtain. He's got a long way to go. It's early days. But the early returns are really, really good for him.
Yeah. I see people in the chat. No, Nick, there'll be a second, third round pick. Take Malik Willis. First pick will be a right tackle. Right now I'd probably put money on edge or offensive tackle being that first pick for the Broncos. Putting quarterback in a box completely, because I don't want to open up with that. We'll get to quarterback here in a second. But I think cornerback is a sneaky position when you're losing two starters, especially with how they seem like they want to use Surtain. I would not sleep on it. There's a lot of factors pointing that way. But let's get into Drew Lock. And the first thing I want to say with Drew Lock is, 5 for 7. That 80-yard touchdown was beautiful. I know KJ Hamler was open, but that's what he's supposed to do, right? Like that's you can't fault him. Oh, the guy was open. Well, he hit the guy in stride for a touchdown. You can't do better than that. And I wanted to give the floor to you because you talked about a play that I was going to bring up, but you've already dissected it, and I like the way you were doing it. I needed some coffee anyway.
Yeah, the 80-yard touchdown is nice. That's more on Hamler than Locke. I mean, you got to make the throw, but that's a throw that every professional quarterback should make. So, he made it. And good for him, and it's great for the stats, but that wasn't the play that made me kind of stand up and think, okay, we've seen a maturation process here. What I did like about that long play was he trusted his offensive coordinator. Somebody saw something early, because he pointed directly to the sidelines and was like, you called it. And what I also like about that play was the first play after a safety. Take a shot after a turnover. A safety is basically a turnover. Take a shot. Cameron Bynum, I don't know what he was doing in coverage there. Looked like
Dantzler
come up and jam Hamler. I think that's who that was, right? It was 43.
I think it was Cameron Dantzler.
Bynum. I'm looking at two different depth charts here. I was 43, and I wrote down numbers as I was watching it. But the play later was 3rd and 4 on the second. I think it was the second touchdown drive, and it was a 4-man rush, and he stood tall. He stood tall in the pocket. He trusted his offensive line, and he went through. You could watch him because they had a perfect behind the camera aerial view behind him as the pocket develops, and you could watch him. He never puts his eyes down, not once. He goes, check 1, check 2, check 3. Jerry Jeudy's available. You give a guy that much time, someone's going to be open. Jerry Jeudy was wide open. Nice little catch and run. But so many times you see a quarterback starting to get happy feet a little bit, or as soon as he takes his eyes down from downfield and starts looking at the rush, it doesn't go from check 1, check 2, check 3. It goes from defensive end to defensive tackle to defensive end. I go, oh crap, sack. And instead, he looked so calm in there and so poised and delivered a strike over the middle. I'm like, that was nice. And then he finished off that drive with a bootleg. And the play action, we talked a little bit about that. 2 runs for 25 yards or so to open the game just set the tone. Because then the play action was wide open. But, a nice naked boot. And he's got 3 receivers running into the quarter of the end zone. 2 of them were covered. 1 of them was open, threads a needle, picks the right guy. Drew Lock looked fantastic. He did. And, working against the ones all week with the Denver, working against Surtain and all those guys in the Denver defense, going against the 2s in Minnesota must have felt like, pitch and catch. Yeah. So the defenses will get better, but he's practicing against as good a defense as he'll face in the league, and that's going to be good for him and Bridgewater.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Shane Daniels coming in here. Good morning. Good morning to you, Shane. What is your opinion on the offensive line play? Very hard to take definitive takeaways from the offensive line, considering the Vikings are playing 2nd and 3rd string defensive line out there in their front 7. And that's another takeaway I have from this game is Drew Lock looked great in this game. I don't think he even felt like the condensation from another player's breath. There was that one play where he stood in the pocket and stood tall, and he did get jarred, not hit very hard, but he did get touched. But the offensive line was great. Drew Lock in that one play, he just had to stand there and go through his reads, and he kept his balance and he kept in a striking pose, but he didn't have to navigate the pocket at all because the pocket was beautiful. And that was an issue for Drew Lock in the past. He'd get off his first read, and if it wasn't there, he'd panic and be looking to run around.
You'll see a quarterback. You can watch their helmet. It comes down, and as soon as they take their eyes off downfield and start looking at the rush in front of them, they're in trouble. Mm-hmm. And as tall as he is, there's no excuse for it. You keep your eyes downfield. He's a lot more mobile than I think people get him credit for because he's an athlete. At one time. Yeah. He took 3 strides and picked up 6 yards. I'm like, he's not a bad runner by any stretch of the imagination. No. So. Terrific game. You couldn't have asked for anything more from Drew Lock, I don't think.
I agree with you. But a lot of people are also crowning him. Everybody doubted him. It was 5 completions in a quarter and a half, and he answered all the questions he possibly could have answered, given the parameters of the game. But it's going to be 6-8 games into the regular season, assuming he wins, before we have enough data, specific examples of questions that we have.
The question is could Drew Lock have done any more? No, he was great. Mm-hmm. He couldn't have.
Yep.
Is the quarterback position settled? No, it's too small a sample size. Yep. First preseason game on all that. It's too small. So there's still questions to be asked and answered. But the first question, Drew Lock answered with, he passed with flying colors.
Yep. But I definitely want to give a shout out to the offensive line play. I know that they played 2 of their starters and a lot of their backups, and some of the Broncos' backups on the offensive line, especially on the interior, are better than what a lot of teams have. So the offensive line dominated. They did in the run game and the pass game. Both quarterbacks are kept very clean. And when the bullets are really flying live and there is pressure getting through, I'm curious to see how Lock does because under pressure last year was an issue for him. And his play kind of devolved when he'd get hit a few times. But again, we can only go off of what we have. Offensive line provided almost a perfect pocket every time. And Drew Lock delivered. That's not a fair expectation of the offensive line.
The set the tone was those 2 running plays.
Yes.
You run Javonte Williams for 2 first downs on first 2 plays. All of a sudden the play action opens up. It's all the synergy. It all plays off one another. You stuff those 2 runs and you're looking at 3rd and 12 instead of, a couple of 1st and 10s. Things change. But we had a couple of nice supers come in that I wanted to make sure we highlighted before we got too far down the rabbit hole here.
Yeah. Justin Jarvis coming in with the picture of Ace Ventura and the Tutu. Love it. One of my favorite movies. If someone told me that Lock and Bridgewater would be number 1 and number 2 in passing rating, I would have told them to pass the good stuff. I know it's preseason and every starter sat for the Vikings, but it's still fun to think about. It is fun to think about. It's again, we can only go off of what we have. You don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill because it is preseason. Like you said, they're playing, not only are they playing the backups, they are playing 8th grade defense, with rush 4, drop 7, just stand in your zone. There's nothing complicated going on there. It's not hard for the quarterbacks to read either. It's if your guy's winning his one-on-one matchup, then you can get to it. So nothing. You don't want to make too much of it, but still, they went out there and executed. And given what we were hearing about the joint practices and how they were struggling, it could have gone the completely other way. And it would have been pretty toxic out here in Broncos country, especially on the social media. So I'm happy it didn't go that way, but still, I'm a little bit guarded as far as, I'm not ready to plan the parade, even though they both were good.
Yeah, and two things. One, we talked about raising the floor. It's a phrase I like that Nick uses, raising the floor of the quarterback play. It's going to be better this year. Quarterback play is going to be better this year.
Yep.
Couldn't get much worse, but it's going to improve, and we're going to see that. And two comments below that, Jimmy Anderson. Apparently, Scott needs to stay out of the tanning bed. I like it, Jimmy. Dude, it's summer in the South. Both of my kids play sports. I'm in Atlanta. It was 90 degrees, and I was out in the sun on Sunday at a soccer tournament for 6 hours. So I've just worked up enough where I'm not turning beet red. Come December, I look like a dead man. Light eyes, light skin. I look like a corpse in the winter. I'm a much better summer than winter for sure. So no tanning beds for me. I did that once in high school and burned my butt. Literally burned it.
Oh,
never again. So this is just too much sunshine for me, dude.
You and that cornerback for the Vikings both got your butts burnt. KJ Hamler.
What's funny is you see Zimmer. Zimmer looked like he just got off the mountain.
Yeah.
with the ski goggles. I'm like, he looked like he had those raccoon eyes, like he just got off, just got done skiing for a week and hadn't seen the sunshine in 2 months.
He does have a degenerative eye disease, though, right?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you can still use sunscreen on the rest of your face.
True. DeAndre Weatherspoon coming in. He looks like he's got a Patrick Surtain picture there. Maybe it's Trinity Benson. Good morning, guys. Go Broncos. Good morning to you, DeAndre. Another super coming in here. $20. I love these orange $20 coming in. Keep them rolling, guys. Kyle Wielden, always coming in. Very super generous. Good to see you, Kyle. Thank you for joining us on this fine Tuesday morning. $20. Good morning, guys. Fun game to watch this weekend. Surtain looks like he's going to be a baller. Absolutely. I mean, George Payton's talked about it. He's going to get critiques about the pick until the Broncos have the quarterback position figured out. It's just that important. But the Broncos look like they have, based on one preseason game, which, don't start making his bust for Canton yet, but based on one preseason game, he looks like an absolute hit. He's also playing one of the most valuable positions in football. And it looks like the Broncos got another core long-term building block in that secondary. And you're going to need those guys in the AFC West. But Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, Patrick Mahomes. Now you have Justin Simmons, who's an obvious long-term building block for that secondary, on top of Patrick Surtain. We're going to figure out how the defensive front plays itself out. Draymond Jones, Bradley Chubb are those guys that are going to be worth being building block pieces as well long-term. But I think we're pretty safe to say Surtain and Simmons are going to be those guys in the back seven. So, yeah, he looks like he's going to be a baller. Based on one game, he looks different, man. He's so big, so long, so smart too.
One game where we've gotten to see him out there, but he was taken ninth for a reason. And one of the things we said about this draft was several times, you're either going to get your quarterback of the future or you're going to get a player you're going to be really excited about drafting in the top 10.
Yep.
And the Broncos did. The Broncos got a guy they're going to be really excited about, and fortunately, so far, he's living up to that. This isn't a surprise. Like, whoa, this guy's really good. Yeah, we knew he is really good. And hopefully he's hitting the ground running and all those things that we said why we liked him to begin with. He got to show. Hopefully, he just stays on that same path because he's a hell of a football player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's so fun. Clee coming in here. Who knew you needed to have a competent O-line to help the quarterback? I just wanted to put a little dig in here, Clee. George Payton was asked about what is a franchise quarterback earlier this week when joint practices were going on, and he mentioned specifically a quarterback who can deliver and execute the offense and make plays, even independent of the offensive line. So having a competent offensive line definitely helps a quarterback, but we're not questioning Drew Lock, the starting quarterback. He was top 30 last year, and he should be top 25, 20 range this season. Maybe better, but that's what you're hoping for. However, the question then becomes, is he a franchise quarterback? Is he worthy of a second contract? We have a long way to go yet, 2 years. I would use those full 2 years before having to answer that question to get as much data as possible. But that's next level stuff. And also how good the offensive line was in this Vikings game. I don't think that is a fair bar to set. That's like expecting the best offensive line in football every week. Only one team can be the best, and that's not a sustainable model for success in the NFL.
Yeah, but again, we talk about level of competition when we're doing
Yeah.
evaluations. You can only do what's put in front of you. You know,
Yep.
the players that were put in front of them, they dominated. They dominated them. That's all you can
Yep.
ask. Okay, now let's take the
Absolutely.
next step. Now let's see what happens next. It's going to get harder and harder as we inch forward toward. It seems like we're years away still.
Mhm.
It's coming fast as we get closer to opening week. But the question was asked of them, of the offensive line, of the defense, of the Denver Broncos. The Broncos answered.
Yeah. Absolutely. Chris coming in here, Chris Beeston over on Facebook. If you guys are joining us on Facebook today, click the thumbs up, the heart, the wow react coming in from Tim Durr. Good to see you, Tim. Chris saying, morning, everyone. Good morning to you, Chris. Here we go. We got Nick, are you going to the Bronco game Saturday? I will be deep, probably in the Olympic Mountains. I was supposed to go backpacking. I was supposed to do a 5-day, 50-mile trip in the Central Cascades this week. And looks like I'm going to be smoked out there. So I'm hightailing it to the peninsula and probably going to get up next to Mount Olympus. Going to get as close as I can get to Mount Olympus without actually climbing it. I need to take technical gear, the ice axe, the ropes. Probably not going to do that this weekend, but I'll probably do a 40-mile trip in the Olympic Peninsula instead, seeing what the weather looks like. So unfortunately, no, I'm not going to go to that game Saturday, but don't worry, guys. I'll be back to recap it and check it out. Also, it's preseason. I'm going to the game next year. The Broncos are actually coming to Seattle for a regular season game in 2022. Mark me down. I wish they would just announce the schedule now so I'd get my tickets. Jeremy coming in here. You got to be excited when your question marks look like check marks after game one, as much as they could be check marked. Right? That's like Scott said. Any questions that we had, we answered as much as we could.
The questions that were asked, not any questions that we have,
Yes,
because there's
yes.
more questions to be had, but the questions that were asked of the Denver Broncos on Saturday were answered, and the tests that they were given, they passed with flying colors.
Yep, 100%. Trevor Sandel coming in here saying Nick is all about facts and stats. Bleep bloop, just trying to do the robot over here, trying to take the emotion out of it. I was hearing the statistics and numbers for Drew Lock give him a 31% chance he is a franchise quarterback, probably coming from Andrew Mason there, one of my favorites. What say you? That's probably about right.
Up with these numbers.
I think it was he ran the data based
29%, because if it was 29%, I'd take the over.
I could get the data for you if you were that interested. I talk with Mace a good bit, but he probably ran all the quarterbacks in the last decade with the specific statistical parameters that he had and the chance that they become a franchise quarterback later on. The two that I can think of in the last decade that struggled as much as Drew did the first 2 seasons, but then would go on to become legit franchise quarterbacks would be Josh Allen and Ryan Tannehill. That's probably where that 31% is. That's who's carrying most of that weight. But
and is Tannehill really that guy? I mean, he's in his 30, 31, 32 now, or is he just a guy that's in a good system? We'll find out. I mean,
yeah,
I might be a little biased because talking about Arthur Smith right now, but he lost his offensive coordinator, and he never showed anything that he was going to be like he was under Arthur Smith.
Yep.
So is he a system guy or is he legit?
We're fixing to find out. He's definitely competent. They're paying him like he's an elite quarterback.
To me, what's franchise even mean? Franchise to me means, you're talking about a top 10 quarterback, which he was last year for sure. Past 2 years he's been, and means I don't have to worry about that position, period. I can focus everywhere else. I can win a Super Bowl with this guy. To me, that's what a franchise means. Franchise guy means I can win a Super Bowl with this guy, not just a statistical outlier like Trent Dilfer winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But a legitimate, this guy gives me a chance every season.
Yep. And it's so hard, too, because we're going right now. The conversation with Drew Lock hopefully changes this season with him playing well. I'm not expecting top 10 this season. Then the conversation shifts to, okay, he's really good, but you're paying him absolutely nothing. And because of that, you can stack up an incredible roster around him. What's to say that paying him that second big contract, that means the Broncos don't turn into that second contract Andy Dalton Bengals team? Because Andy Dalton with the Bengals, when he was on a rookie contract, that team won the AFC North multiple times. They had one of the most talented rosters in football. As soon as they paid him, the team went in the absolute crapper because he just wasn't the guy, right? On a rookie quarterback, definitely good enough. You can put a good team around him. Great. Once he was paid, not ideal. So that's the one that hopefully that's where the conversation changes this year, because that means that Drew Lock's playing in that like 25 to 15 range. and that means this season is going to be very good. But new questions arise based on the new data we get. So let's keep good. DBA's in the house. Good to see you. Good morning, y'all. Good to see you. DeAndre Witherspoon. If everything goes well, can the Broncos make the playoffs this season? Scott.
Yes. Done. Yeah. You get average quarterback play, and you're talking about not just making the playoffs, but being dangerous in the playoffs. And last year was not even below average; it was bad. Below average is a step up. Average is good. Average quarterback play this year. Everybody stays healthy. Not everybody, but at least you're not decimated by injuries again.
Yeah.
With a little luck, with the injury bug and average quarterback play, and this team is dangerous. It's not just making the playoffs, but becomes a tough out in the playoffs.
I mean, we've seen it with the Titans a few seasons now. Their defense has wilted quickly, and that's I guess that's the telltale for building a defense, right? It's not sustainable. You have typically 1.5 years before you regress to the mean, historically speaking.
Especially the Ravens.
Yeah, well, they're the outlier. The Ravens and the Vikings have been like the two teams that have had very good defenses the last 5 years. The Vikings imploded last year with the defensive tackle injuries. But historically speaking, defenses tend to regress quickly to the mean. But for the Broncos this season, they're very much, I think you could make an argument that they could be like the Titans 2 years ago when they knocked out the Ravens. Number 1 seed Ravens. That team had a great defense. They got after the quarterback, and they could run the heck out of the football. Now, Denver doesn't have Derrick Henry, but they also have better pass weapons. That means that they could potentially dictate box numbers differently than what the Titans could do, and arguably a better defense. So, especially, I'm sorry, guys, I know we're talking about the Broncos making the playoffs. Don't think the odds are very good that they win the division with the Chiefs in here. So they're playing on the road. But you know what travels in cold weather football on the road?
Defense and running game.
Exactly. So, and also Drew Lock has struggled in bad weather condition games, but you can figuratively and literally take the ball out of his hands if you are playing great defense and running the football and focus more Titans talk here today. Gosh, it's the Titans podcast. Most efficient passing game in football last year was the Tennessee Titans. And it's not because Ryan Tannehill is incredible. It's because they were going for the big plays, the play action passes, because the box numbers were huge and they could get these efficient big chunk plays off of that. That's what you're hoping to see with the Broncos this year, with a good run game, good offensive line, and these pass weapons that they have. So we'll see. Andrew coming back in here, Andrew Lampy, and I definitely wanted to get into this one. Somebody that a lot of people slept on. I slept on coming into the draft, did work on him afterwards. Like, okay, I see the flashes. Caden Stearns. Andrew says, don't forget about Caden Stearns. Kid looked pretty legit to me. Stearns was a high recruit. You can probably speak more to that than I can. Obviously, Texas, historically a team that has, not historically, but the last decade, bring in high recruits and they tend to underwhelm, but Stearns has looked really good. Great athlete. Is actually, one of his big questions at Texas was his tackling. And Vic was like, he looks good out there, but tackling's a big deal and we can't figure that out until games. Looked good to me in that game. And I know that people are, they love to hold on to their known quantities. I remember when the Broncos traded TJ Ward, I did a solo pod and people were crying in the chat. Why would the Broncos do this? I don't think TJ Ward even played a snap for the Bucs after that. But the future after Kareem Jackson in Denver looks okay. I think you can put that one to bed. If obviously you don't want to lose Justin Simmons, but Caden Stearns / Justin Simmons, you're probably going to be okay at safety. So that's just one less thing to worry about going forward that you can figuratively bank on. Not 100%. Let's say you're drafting like 12 and Kyle Hamilton falls to you. You probably just take the free talent and move on. But Broncos look like they're in a pretty good spot with the safety position now and going forward.
Yeah, and again, it wasn't a high pick on him, so
no.
Being able to get him good value, you said underperformer. That might be underperforming is a pretty good way to describe the Texas Longhorns period for the last decade. So he had to kind of come out and remind everybody that, hey, I can play. It's odd that the Texas guys are getting overlooked because they're Texas guys, but he can play. So looking forward to seeing more of him for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter coming in here is talking about late round draft picks that are developmental players that give you flexibility going forward. I told you that Stearns was picked for a reason. So that's a very good one. And I agree with you there. I was more hyped on Jamar Johnson, but Jamar has been injured. So Stearns is running with it, and Stearns is a better athlete. Jeremy saying Caden's athleticism really showed. He was flying out there. Really good to see him. Vic Fangio, man, if there's any player or coach in the league that knows how to pick out a safety, Vic Fangio is one who's done a phenomenal job with that historically. Another guy who stood out to me, not to the extent that some of Broncos country is pushing, but Justin Strnad looked competent out there in coverage. He's not going to be this all-pro. He's not the second coming of Al Wilson, in my opinion, but he is one that he looks competent out there. He could be a starter. I'm not worried about him being a starter. He's not going to be a plus player, but he's not going to kill you. And at linebacker, that's fine. And he's another one where even if he doesn't start this year, he's filling in for somebody as a starter in 2022 and beyond. And that's just, again, one less thing to worry about. You don't have to use a premium resource on a linebacker if you don't want to. You don't have to shell out crazy money for the linebacking position. And Broncos having that in their back pocket with Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson both set to hit free agency this next year gives them a lot of much needed flexibility at the position.
He caught my eye quickly. His lateral, he's very good laterally.
Yes.
His side to side, chasing down tight ends in the flats, running backs in the flats. And you can see how important it is to have a thumper in the middle in this defense. Towards in the second half, when the third teamers started coming in, you can see that everything is funneled. The running game is funneled into the middle linebackers, and the Vikings started having some success when those tackles were getting missed, or at least taken along. So we talk about sometimes it's not the flashiest of positions. Some of these big guys that are running 4.8s, but you need somebody that's going to stop a play. You can get 3 yards. That's okay, but you're not going anywhere past there. And then the defense was focusing on funneling these guys to the linebackers to be short tacklers. And that's the number one priority right now. But I had a couple of notes on Strnad early on because he, let me see where I had this in here. I said he looked good closing on pass in the flats and then attacking the offensive backfield. He blew up a 2nd and 20 in the second quarter. So he made a play laterally and he made a play vertically. So he caught my attention for sure too. Somebody that I really liked, and it may have just been because it wasn't just him having success on the interior line, but Deshaun Williams was just blowing up the right guard in the beginning of the game. And, I started looking at him. I was like, Clemson guy, 6 foot, 290. I'm like, that reminds me of another Clemson guy that's an all-pro in Atlanta. Did he get overlooked because he is 6 foot? Because he was just killing the interior offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings. Now he's going against second teamer, but he's a second teamer. So I was really impressed with Deshaun Williams, number 9. Like I said, I wrote down numbers to start. I can't just reflexively spit out the names and numbers just yet. Give me one more game. But I was really impressed with 90 in the middle of that defense.
Yeah, no, he flashed a lot. He is smaller, but he's got a spot on this team for sure. And the Broncos actually have some good interior defensive line depth. I know that the Broncos don't need to play these guys, but I am itching to watch Draymond Jones versus the Seahawks. That's honestly, everybody's quarterbacks, but with how much people in camp have been talking about Draymond Jones, if he could be a guy that takes that next step, that you're talking about a completely different defense. If you can get a consistent alpha winner from the interior pass rush position, that's probably the hardest thing to stop offensively if you have a game winner on the inside of the defense.
Well, and one of the players that flashed to me towards the end, and there's a phrase that non-SEC fans get really tired of hearing, and it's called SEC speed. Okay? They get really tired of hearing that. It's like, well, this guy runs a 4.3, this guy runs a 4.4. Skilled players are fast everywhere. Yeah. That's not what SEC speed is. SEC speed was in the fourth quarter when Smith Marset, they're trying to get the ball because he's all this super fast, gets beaten to the corner by Andre Mintz. Number 91, I see flash out and push this guy wide for a two loss. Went to Vanderbilt. The SEC speed is in the front 7. Vanderbilt guy takes the corner, and you and I had talked a lot about the difference between being fast and being able to break tackles. Rose was having success between the tackles, clearing the trash and getting some yards breaking tackles. And the super fast guy couldn't get the edge and was if he wasn't in open field, he was in trouble. So, 91, I thought, rookie out of Vanderbilt. Rookie? Yeah, rookie.
Yes. Yep.
Rookie out of Vanderbilt.
Undrafted.
Showed some good speed on the edge too.
And I think he had an injury this week in the game, but I think he was in pads yesterday. So good news for the Broncos. I don't know if he was in there, but he's another one that I'm really watching for. Maybe some of you old heads in here for Broncos country would remember the name Emmett, Doc Bear, also another name. They're covering the Broncos for a long time over on It's All Over Fat Man. Chad brought him in to write some articles in Mile High Huddle. He's been a big name in the Broncos blogosphere for a decade. I remember reading him when I was like a sophomore in high school, but I talk with him pretty regularly as well. And he's saying that Mintz really caught his eye pretty consistently. Another guy who caught his eye consistently was Netane Moody, Broncos left guard. And I did think it was interesting to watch him every single snap while he was out there at left guard, looking back at Locke before the snap and then kind of tapping on Cushenberry, considering the crowd noise was minimal at best there. But still, he was out there. He has some work to do. I thought his pulls were not the best as far as targeting a guy, locating a guy. But he definitely was a plus player in the run game. And it really does seem like the Broncos are going to try to work him in there. I don't know what does that mean for the other guards, Dalton Reisner, Graham Glasgow, both guys that you've invested in pretty heavily. But it does seem like Moody is very much pushing for a job, and he could easily displace somebody if either Glasgow or Reisner struggle and this team decides they need a bump in the run game.
Just looking at the team on a spreadsheet, Glasgow's name is circled based on that salary.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. It's what we would say he's the second highest paid Bronco as a guard. You got a red mark through your name already, dude. So if you're not clear head and shoulders above the guy ahead of you, you might be looking for a job again in the very near future.
Yeah, let me look at his contract real quick, because I felt like his contract was at a point where it would be difficult to move on from him. But it's hard to say. Also, he has some center experience in his history as well. So that isn't the worst. But yeah, moving on from Glasgow results in a $12 million dead cap hit this year and a $7 million.
I don't mean this year. Yeah, okay. I don't mean this year for sure. If it would happen, it might be because we've talked about how he moves down. And so going into 2022, it drops to 6. You do that after a certain date, it's 3. When you've got a $12 million cap hit and I can do something for 3 at a guard position, the second highest paid guy, that's you're a little nervous there.
Yep. I totally
might be talking about restructure. Let's get an extension in there, do something like that. So again, the contract, it just looks odd when you look through everybody's teams, and the second highest paid guy is an offensive guard. That's just abnormal. Of course, so is not having a quarterback in the double digits as far as a $10 million cap hit too.
Yeah. No, that's that. You're absolutely right. I think Glasgow is one where you hold on to him for now. But if you do trade him this year, it's a $3 million dead cap hit this year and $6 million next year, but $8.5 million save. If you trade him this year,
Nick, there was a question here earlier about maybe trading. I think it was Kareem Jackson for a 6. Right now, I wouldn't trade anybody in the 2 deep.
No
one. There's no reason to, unless it was for a player, unless you could get better, but not for a conditional pick or anything like that. I wouldn't trade anybody in the 2 deep for a draft pick. You're going into the season. You think you've got a chance, depending on the quarterback play, to make a run in the playoffs. Yeah. I need all those guys. I don't need cap relief. I don't need a 6th-round pick. I need veteran leadership, and I need my players. Now, if I can make a swap and get better at a position because I can get a player right away, that's different. But I'm not trading a guy for a conditional draft pick down the road. Not right now. No way.
I agree with you. But I was leading up to Glasgow. You're holding on to him now. But let's say the Broncos are 2-6, 3-5, approaching the trade deadline. Now here we are. That's when you're trading the likes of Glasgow, maybe even a Reisner. Also, if you're not happy with how he's fitting in the more power-centric scheme, to fit in a Moody and get some young blood in there, get some extra draft capital, give yourself ammo next year to do what you want, as well as some extra cap space.
Yeah, when I'm talking about, I'm talking about like right preseason, heading into the season stuff. Sure. Once the season unfolds, everything gets reset. Then you reset what your goals are for the year and for the next year as well. So we will we'll revisit that in in October.
Yep, 100%. The one guy that just to point, one guy stands out to me as far as who could be traded, and I agree with you. There's no reason to player for player trades. For one, hardly ever happen in the league. But also trading guys off the 2 deep. The only one that comes to mind where I'd be like, okay, maybe, is Tim Patrick.
You're going to say a wide receiver, aren't you?
Yes. Tim Patrick. I love Tim Patrick. He's a great player. He's not as good as Cortland Sutton was at his peak. Both those guys are going to be free agents at the end of the year. And you need reps for the likes of KJ Hamler and Trinity Benson. So those are the ones that if let's say you can get a 2022 4 and a 2023 4 or a 2023 third, for moving on Tim Patrick for a team that needs wide receiver help now. And you're already like, man, we love Trinity Benson. We love Seth Williams / Tyree Cleveland or one of these other wide receivers. We don't have the space for them. I would be okay taking a step back with those guys, with Tim Patrick and whatnot. I know it's a risk because Sutton can Sutton stay healthy. That's something, we don't know. But if it means you can get extra ammo, especially in those mid rounds where, look, we're just talking about all these defensive players this cycle, all these mid round guys that have been developmental. You're talking about getting more of those type of shots there, more cheap contracts so you can spend money elsewhere. That's the only one where it's like, I don't want to. But if somebody offered me value and it was like the difference of me keeping Trinity Benson, who deserves to stay on this roster after what he's done, I would consider it. That's the only one.
One of the plays that may have gone unnoticed, or it may have been picked to death already. We're a couple days into this since the game, so it may have, everything gets overanalyzed. But Benson, the 2 touchdowns are going to catch your eye, and he was open. Some other stuff too. But the one immediately where I noticed was the first punt of the game. It was short. It's like a 35-yard punt, and Benson just comes flying in.
Yep.
And makes a fair catch. Those are the hidden yards. That thing takes a bounce on artificial turf. It can go 25 yards the other direction.
Yeah.
That's fearlessness. And then he had it was a return after the safety. So that was a punt after the safety. I said, he just looks fantastic in the open field. So, he caught our eye off 2 special teams plays before he even caught a football. And then he had the 2 touchdowns. So making the roster, Trinity Benson is, it was great on special teams, great at receiver. He was my player of the game.
Wow, player of the game even. Man, that's awesome. That's just the one where, and I see people saying, it's definitely risky to move on from a Tim Patrick because of the unknown of Sutton, how he's recovering, and how good he was last year. But if you're getting, let's say if I can get a 2022 5th and then a 2023 3rd, that's just good business. That's way more than you're ever going to get for him for moving on in the compensatory. So it would be tough to say, but it's definitely something you have to think about. And we had a $2 super come in. Oh, super is starting to come in here. You guys must know it's almost time to go. Once those supers come, we can't go.
Looks like our closer just came in. It must be time to go.
So yes, exactly. Casey coming in here. And for you guys for being top notch. Casey, you're top notch. Thank you for the $2 super over on YouTube. We also have a $5 super over on YouTube saying best MHH show by far. Thank you guys. Well, thank you, Moran. I'm glad that the morning show is getting some love. Appreciate the heck out of you guys for that. We again, I've said it before. We weren't sure how this would go. Scott was looking to get in the live stream game, and he said, "Well, what about a morning drive?" Chad said, "Okay, I got a guy who's chomping at the bit to do some more football stuff. This is my favorite medium, if you will, as well. And I also enjoy the football talk with Scott here and the chat. So it's great. Broncos 17-0 coming with the super sticker, $20. I'm going to think it's going to be, I'm going to say it's a super sticker of Netane Moody flattening a guy. That's what I'm picturing. That's my MVP from the game. Moody was very fun. El Bronco saying Scott is a low key hater. SMH. Okay. Well, El Bronco, I would say that Scott is same thing that people called me a hater before. I'm just saying data and leaving it up for interpretation. So if that makes me a hater, you hate reality.
Who have I hated on? I've been nothing but positive. Who have I hated on here?
Yeah, I can't even think of any.
But the key is it's when in daily life, as far as fandom, it's not even low key. I'm absolutely a hater. You grew up a Cleveland-born Atlanta sports fan. You hate everything. This is fun because I have an emotional connection with this Broncos community, but not necessarily with the team. So I don't have that same sense of dread when the Denver Broncos are playing that I do when anybody else I happen to watch is playing. I'm a miserable person to be around during games of fans that I watch because everything is going to go bad. I'm one of those guys that bitches about everything.
I know that they always say that perfection is the enemy of good, but I started this gig and becoming with the platform and whatnot during the end of the Peyton era, beginning of the Trevor Siemian era, if you can call it that. So always nitpicking, right? It was always something. If it wasn't the offensive line, it was something on the defense, et cetera, et cetera. So we're getting it going. But here we go. Big Floppy coming in here. So let me get this straight. Super chats show up and then you guys log out with your beer money. What a gig. I call it my REI fund. But it's fun to sit in here and talk football, and obviously Scott and I have been doing this for a number of years as well, but we wouldn't be here if you guys weren't supporting us. So we appreciate the heck out of you. That's going to have to do it for us today, though, unless any super chats come in the last minute. But that's Broncos for breakfast, guys. We're going to be back at you Thursday morning, same time, same place, 7:30 Mountain Time. You guys can catch us on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. While you guys are over there, follow us at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. Thank you for everybody for answering the call of action with the like, the heart, and the wow reacts over on Facebook. But if you haven't done that yet, please smash that like button. That goes for YouTube as well, but specifically the Facebook people right now, I'm talking to you. Give us a like react, give us a heart react. We'd really appreciate that. And while you're over there as well, go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Become a supporter today. You know, what are you waiting for? The season's here. Everybody's hyped. Broncos, both top 2 quarterbacks are the number 1 and 2 rated quarterback in football. You know, now's the time to get in, man. Let's keep this momentum going. It's going to be a good time as long as that's continuing. Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle is pod as well. Follow us there. If you guys are joining us on YouTube today, please subscribe, like, and share. Hit that little bell icon to get alerts for when we go live, when something new comes up. It's not just the live streams. There's video breakdowns. There's the trickle corner as well. So there's the Kelberman corner as well. So keep on that while you guys are over on YouTube. Also, make sure you go to youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. I'm going to drop his sub in the chat as well. Anything that new going on there? I know you've said you've been doing the Premier League. What's going on football wise? I'm sure you got some Falcon stuff going on.
Yeah, doing more Falcon stuff, cutting up some of the interesting sound bites. I know press conferences can be just unbelievably boring. So you need somebody to filter out the 60 seconds of what's interesting out of a 30-minute press conference. So trying to do a little of that, and going to start doing some intros on into those things, some newsers type stuff, and we'll get close to start doing some fantasy football as well. So we got any requests? If you guys are there, like I said, football is nothing without fans. So if you got any requests, I'd be happy to hit some different topics. Just let me know.
I want some Tyler Linderbaum cut ups. How's that? There's the Tyler Linderbaum Bronco, or it's the Iowa Hawkeye Center. There's a video out there. He's a wrestler from Iowa, and there's a video from him wrestling Tristan Wirfs for the wrestling championship and pinning Tristan Wirfs. Incredible.
High school guys, I love the wrestlers, especially on the interior line, linebackers and running backs, because they're balanced. You try and cut block a linebacker, doesn't happen. They just sprawl. Yep. They're constantly on their feet. And then the interior linemen as wrestlers, it's all grappling. It's all grappling and using your balance and your leverage. So, multi-sport athletes are better players, and you can take something from one sport to whatever sport you choose. And the crossover between wrestling and football is fantastic. So I love the wrestlers, love them.
I want my quarterbacks to play baseball. I want my perimeter players to play soccer. I want my front 7 and offensive linemen to wrestle. That's
everybody running track in the spring.
Yeah, maybe some basketball as well out there. But let's say hello to all of our super chats here that came in today. You guys were really supportive, and we appreciate that. Hopefully I don't miss anybody here. We got Max Power, Lord Deer, Gary Leeds Palmer, Andrew Lampy, Matthew Martinez, Justin Jarvis, Kyle Wielden, Casey Sheet, Mo Ron, Broncos 17-0. Thank you guys so much. I feel
like there were some superstars in there from Facebook that we missed. So we
Peter,
certainly, if we did, we apologize. Make sure that you get called out. Gary's good about that. Dave's good about that for Thursday.
Yep, absolutely. So guys, we will see you out of here. He said, sorry, no starts. You're still waiting for things to be set up here. That's okay, Peter. We appreciate you. We love everybody joining us today. Everyone have a great, hopefully smoke-free day. Go out there and get it. Stay safe as always, and we'll see you guys on Thursday. But until then,